So here we are, the last video of our breathing series. I hope you guys have taken something from this, whether it be new information that you never knew about your body before and the mechanics of breathing or the anatomical structure within yourself. That's really cool. Hopefully some of you have also had some aha moments around why breathing is so important and being able to connect some dots between the relationship you have with yourself and your own body, plus your relationship to breathing, and how you can start to implement some of what you've learned through these videos to help increase your own health and vitality. So what I would love to touch on in this last video is just recapping why breathing correctly is so important. And I think the first one I'd like to mention is that breathing correctly will help to address those tight secondary muscles that I've spoken about frequently throughout these videos. So through the chest, the shoulders, the upper back, the neck. If you are someone who experiences headaches as a result of that, paying attention to the way that you breathe and starting to breathe correctly in that correct patterning that we've spoken about in those initial videos can help to address the tightness there. The other thing that I'd probably like to just drop in here, if you remember right back at the beginning of the video, I think the first one I did in the introduction, I spoke about how breathing and an increased breathing rate can affect the acid-alkaline balance of the body, and how obviously being in a more acidic state is less than ideal for us in terms of then it being a breeding ground to promote illness and sickness and disease and inflammation in the body. So making sure that you're breathing correctly is a way to decrease breathing rate. Because if we're in, say, like those shallow chest breathing patterns for the majority of our day, our breathing rate is going to be elevated. You can try it quickly now. If you just take long, slower, deep diaphragmatic breaths, you'll see that naturally you'll just take less breaths within a minute than what you would if you kept the breath really shallow. But what happens when we breathe really quickly or our breathing rate increases is that actually increases the production of lactic acid and pyruvate in our body. Now, those of you that work out frequently will be familiar probably with the term lactic acid. That's the stuff that can make you feel really stiff and achy after a workout. But what's key to pay attention to here is that you don't need to be working out in order for you to get stiff and achy muscles if you've got an increased breathing rate, because that will increase those waste products or those byproducts within the body. And that can also be leading to stiffness and achiness just in your body in general. So not always just up in the top here that we've spoken about with those secondary or accessory breathing muscles. So be mindful of that. And if that's something you're experiencing, just global broad stiffness or tension or tightness within your body, maybe you wake up some days and you're like, why am I so stiff? Why am I so sore all the time? Pay attention to your breathing pattern and see if there's something that you can introduce there to help calm your body down. And when we're talking about calming the body down, let's have a quick refresher too as well on breathing correctly being so important to help us regulate our nervous system in terms of moving us out of that sympathetic, so that fight or flight response, which really jacks up our stress hormones, which remember over time is detrimental to our body, and help to push us more into that parasympathetic, so into the rest and digest, which is where our body recovers. And as the name would suggest, where we do things like digest our food more effectively. Could there potentially be a link there in the way that we breathe and all of the digestive disorders that we're starting to see within modern man? I'm not sure. It's probably something just based on my experience and what I've come to understand about the relationship with breathing and our body, could potentially be a big factor in our stress response. But hey, something to consider if you are somebody that also experiences digestive issues, whether that range from things like gas or bloating to something maybe a little bit more severe, then hey, also, again, can you take a look at the way that you're breathing? It might not be the cure-all for your issues, but it could be something that you can start to bring in to your health and well-being routine to help you in terms of managing something like that. And then the last thing I want to touch on here is breathing correctly being also super important for helping us to manage our mental and emotional state, right? And something that I would put in here may be something like anxiety. So whilst I do understand and I do know that there are lots of moving parts and lots of components that come into things like mental and emotional issues and dealing with anxiety, I'm not suggesting that it is purely because of faulty breathing patterns, but it could be something that's driving the problem and or adding to the problem, right? And especially when we look at something like anxiety, because we know and Me being someone, I have dealt with anxiety myself in the past, and actually going to breath work was something that helped me massively with that, in terms of moving that through my body and allowing that to be a release for me. So I wasn't always holding on to that really like suppressed, horrible, anxious energy that you get a lot when you experience anxiety. When we're anxious, that jacks up our sympathetic nervous system, so that fight or flight response, that increases our breathing rate, and that can lead to us having a breathing pattern disorder. But also when we look at breathing pattern disorders, so not breathing correctly, so if something's gone a little bit amiss within the autonomic nervous system, remember the automatic part of our nervous system that controls breathing, if something goes slightly amiss there, then we can end up with a breathing pattern disorder and not breathe correctly. And that might be because of something, say like a postural issue or a postural imbalance. But as we spoke about in the previous video, when we get a postural imbalance, that can encourage us to chest breathe and mouth breathe, which can jack up our central nervous system, so jack up that sympathetic nervous system, push us into that fight or flight mode, increase our breathing rate, and cause us to be anxious. So we can see how there can sometimes be this little bit of a vicious cycle to be like, is it the anxiety that's making us stressed and elevating our breathing pattern? Or is it maybe something else like a postural problem that's pushing us into a faulty breathing pattern that's also adding and creating anxiety in the body? So just a little bit of food for thought for some of you guys out there, because I know that something like anxiety is a really common thing that a lot of people seem to struggle with in this day and age. So perhaps maybe exploring your relationship to breathing and where you can make some adjustments there could potentially be something that could help you with that. So as I wrap up the last bit of this video for you guys then, what I would like to say is that whilst I have of course been talking about symptoms of a potential breathing pattern disorder, we've spoken about a lot of them through these videos, so things like anxiety and panic attacks, which we had touched on just now. Also things like digestive issues, that stiffness and tightness in the neck and the upper back, headaches, potentially even just that extreme fatigue and that general feeling of tight, achy muscles throughout your entire body. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have a breathing pattern disorder, right? So whilst I'm here to try and present some information to you to hopefully allow you to ask some bigger and better questions about your health and your body and where you're at with it, it's not a diagnostic tool. So if this is something that you do resonate with and it sparked a bit of curiosity within you, then please take this conversation to your healthcare provider and whoever it is that you're working alongside to help you on your health and wellness journey, and see if there is a connection that you can make there between the way that you're breathing and potentially if that's contributing or maybe having some kind of causative factor on whatever is going on and happening within your body right now. And I think it's probably important just to mention here too, sometimes breathing patterns can be habitual, right? It might just be something that we've learned, that we've taught our bodies to do for a long period of time, because no one's ever really told us or shown us how to breathe properly. So now you've got some tools in your tool belt that empower you to start taking a bit more control over your body, the way that it works, and the things that you can do to just optimize your health and live as a vital human being that all of us should be able to do in this day and age. And I encourage you and invite you to go out, think about your relationship with the way you breathe, tune into your body, give it a go, practice some of the stuff that you've learned, and yeah, I'd love to hear back how you go with it.